This is the weekend preview presented by Three Chimneys. We got a huge weekend coming up. Obviously, Travers Day. It's the race everybody circles on their calendar most on the Saratoga summer schedule, and it's got an 8-horse field. You'd like a couple more. The big story of the race going into it was the scratch of Charge It, which is unfortunate. It's just one of those horses that just doesn't run as frequently as you would want him to. I just when the horse wins a race like he won the Dwyer. And, there's 10 weeks or whatever it is to the Travers. And they're like, yeah, we're just waiting for the Travers. I'm like, okay, something can pop up with a horse like this over time. And unfortunately, that's what happened because he was the most interesting horse in the race to me with the 111 buyer and the 23 length win. So we're left with a field of 8. Epicenter is I thought surprisingly heavy morning line favorite at 7-5. He drew post 6. We have the Derby winner in there. Rich Strike drew post 2. He's 10-1. Morning line, we've got 3 horses for Chad Brown. Early voting, there's obviously the Preakness winner, Arturius and Zandon. So Chad's got 3 of the 8, still looking for his first Travers winner. That's going to be a fun interview after the race if Chad wins the Travers. But I will try to beat Epicenter again. I think he just is not that much better than these horses, although he looked tremendous in the Jim Dandy. That was a short field. I think it's going to be a little bit tougher to figure out in this race what the pace is going to be like. The good thing about Epicenter, and we've said this before, is that he's so versatile. He can be on the lead. He can be just off the lead. We saw in the Jim Dandy, he can drop back and make one run. So I totally respect him as the favorite. I just think this is a good enough Travers field that you shouldn't be taking 6-5 or 7-5 on anybody. Guys, what are your first thoughts on the Travers?
I'll take the 7-5 on him, Joe. I just think he's
Chalk eater.
Kind of, and he's not going to be 2-5 like Ness, but just like we said, I just think he's better than these horses, and I think he's proven that, particularly in the Jim Dandy, and his run in the Derby and Preakness were very, very good. It's kind of a shame. This race is a good race, but you lost O'Donegal, you lost Charge It. It could have been really, a race with a lot of sizzle. But in Epicenter again, if he wins this, does he clinch the 3-year-old championship? Maybe not, because a 3-year-old male could still win, of course, the Breeders' Cup Classic. It's funny too. I wouldn't bet on Rich Strike with your money, but here we have the Kentucky Derby winner is 10-1 in here, and it's hardly like he's even in the race. Nobody talks about him whatsoever. But when he didn't show much in the Belmont, you can go back to just saying the whole thing was a fluke. But an interesting race, the 3 Chad Brown horses. Steve asked me, he said, I know we'll get into the other races, but he could have an absolutely huge day on Saturday at Saratoga. And I'm an Epicenter guy, and maybe you're right. Overall, maybe taking a 6-5 shot in a situation like this is not the best thing to do. But when I think he's going to win the race, I'll take the 6-5.
And I don't think we should lament the fact that a couple of big horses aren't in the race. I think we should focus on how good the field is. You have the Haskell winner, the Preakness winner, the Jim Dandy winner, the Bluegrass winner, and the Kentucky Derby winner also. So you have 5 horses that won, arguably the most important 3-year-old races of the country, other than the Belmont, and they're going to go head to head to head to head to head. 5. They're all going to go mano a mano. And I think that, early voting, who put in a clunker in the Jim Dandy, but before that, he was second choice in that race. And if they figured out why he whether he bounced or what have you, what his issue was in the Jim Dandy, he's going to be really tough. And he's morning line 8-1. And Bill, you mentioned it, the Kentucky Derby winner is 10-1 in the race. So it's a very good field. It's a very deep field. And it's probably as tough of a field, at least in the contenders range, since 2018, when Catholic Boy went up against Mendelssohn, Vino Rosso, Gronkowski, Good Magic, and Wonder Godot. So, that was the last time, in my estimation, when we had a field of top 3-year-olds coming in and just waging war against each other in the Travers. I dare to say I think that this is a better field overall than the Kentucky Derby was, quite frankly. And, the reason being is you have all these horses that are now pointed for this race. They're getting, this is going to be, like I said, a grade 0 kind of race. I think that we're going to look back at this race, especially come, when these horses are starting to retire to become stallions. And we're going to say, boy, remember when so-and-so, fill in the blank, won the Travers? That catapulted him to the 3-year-old championship.
153rd running of the Run Happy Travers. Did I say Run Happy the first time? I don't want Mac to get mad at me. So it's going to be a great day of racing. I'm looking at the weather right now. It looks like we're going to be okay. Let me see. Yeah. Saturday looks beautiful at Saratoga, 81 degrees, partly sunny. Anybody that's going to be out there, have a great time. But Bill brings up an interesting point about the 3-year-old championship, because Epicenter, as much as he's done and as heavy as a favorite he's going to be, he still doesn't have a grade 1 win as a 3-year-old. So that's important. He's got the Risen Star. He's got the Louisiana Derby. He's got the Jim Dandy. He did run second, obviously, in the Derby and the Preakness. So he's definitely the leader right now. But say Cyberknife wins this race. That'll be his 3rd grade 1 win of the year. He won the Arkansas Derby. He won the Haskell. If Cyberknife wins, he's the new leader in the 3-year-old division. So, as much as we respect Epicenter, as much as we think he's the horse to beat, and he's had a very good campaign, very consistent campaign, this is not a layup race for him at all. And it's not a layup that he's going to be 3-year-old champion. Now, obviously, if he wins this race, he's going to be tough to catch. But that's the subplot in here, is that, like John says, you have a bunch of grade 1 winners in here who could take the lead in the 3-year-old champion race. And it'd be nice actually to see some drama in that, because I think, like we said, Nest is basically a foregone conclusion now in the 3-year-old filly division. So it's going to be interesting to see, coming out of this race, how we feel about the 3-year-old class. And I think overall we felt like this is an above average crop. We've lost a couple horses here and there along the way, but it's going to be interesting coming out of this race to analyze how we think these horses are going to run against the elders later in the year. And I think that so a lot of that depends on how Flightline does in the Pacific Classic, because you've got a very, very strong group of older males. So it'll be interesting to see coming out of here where we think that the 3-year-olds stack up, because after this, they got to take on the older horses, and we'll look forward to that for sure.
Joe, just because this reminds me all the time, can we at least mention Ain't Life Grand and Gilded Age? They're running also, just so we can say we did talk about them on the show.
Ain't Life Grand won the Iowa Derby over Conager, who came back and ran a big race. I think we might see Conager in the H. Allen Jerkins, which we're going to talk about after this break. But yes, thank you for the Remy reminder to mention every horse in the race, so we don't get yelled at by anybody. The TDN Writers Room, and more specifically, this weekend preview segment, is sponsored by Three Chimneys Stallions. It was another week, another TDN Rising Star for Three Chimneys superstar sire Gun Runner. Echo again, who John mentioned earlier, looked terrific. Winchell Homebred is the 6th Rising Star already for last year's freshman sire and horse of the year. Gun Runner was campaigned by the same connections as Echo again. Gun Runner had another impressive juvenile winner on Sunday, who I mentioned, with Grand Love. Homebred for Three Chimneys, looks very speedy, and he's got a big weekend ahead with multiple grade 1 winners. Cyberknife, who has a huge chance coming up in the Travers. Preakness Hero early voting, another good chance in the Travers. And he's got some horses on the undercard that we're going to talk about a little bit. And we'll be right back after this message from Three Chimneys.
Here comes Tama. Tama in the center of the track with good-looking strides, squares off with Cyberknife. Cyberknife takes the lead. Tama going with him. These two in a thriller. Cyberknife just in front, and Cyberknife has won the TVGcom Haskell over Tama. Jack Christopher finished 3rd. The running time 1 minute 46.24 seconds.
Gun Runner's on top of the world.
Come dream with us at Three Chimneys.
And it's all Tyler's Tribe to the final furlong. He's putting on another show tonight. He is 8 lengths in front. Now it's 10, now it's 12. Tyler's Tribe pouring it on as they come down to the line. He's going to win by double digits, and he stops the clock in 104.
All right, so we had a bunch of other big stakes on Saturday at Saratoga and over the weekend, honestly, because they moved the Ballerina this year to Sunday, which I like. I like having that big race to look forward to the day after the Travers. Like, my feeling on these big mega cards is they're great, but they kind of cannibalize the rest of the racing schedule. So I'm glad they put the Ballerina on Sunday. It's a nice sleepy day after the Travers, and you still have something to get excited about. But as for the Travers Day undercard, we've got the Forgo, we've got the H. Allen Jerkins, we've got the Personal Ensign, and the Sword Dancer. All 4 of those are grade 1s. We also have the Ballston Spa, which is a grade 2 for fillies and mares on the turf. So in total, 6 graded stakes, 5 grade 1s. And not to forget, we also have the Pat O'Brien on Saturday at Del Mar as well, which I think Speaker's Corner is going to ship across the country and just avoid Flightline by about a week or so. And I think he's probably going to be the horse to beat him there. To me, I think the most exciting race usually, other than the Travers on this day, is the H. Allen Jerkins, because you do get those 3-year-olds where the trainers have finally thrown in the towel on them becoming routers and are like, let's just focus on 7 furlongs to a mile or 6 furlongs. And that's, I think, sometimes when you get the most brilliant performances, when horses maybe were chasing the Triple Crown Trail a little bit, cut back, and are now doing what they were born to do. We saw it last year with Life is Good and Jackie's Warrior. That was the race of the year for my money. This year looks like we're going to have a pretty big field. Gunite, son of Gun Runner, who won the Amsterdam earlier in this meet, is going to be in there. Conager, who I also mentioned, a really, really nice fast horse for Mike Tomlinson, is going to be in there. Jack Christopher, I think Jack Christopher's turning back for this, right, guys? He's in the
Haskell.
Yeah. So Jack Christopher is going to be in there. Howling Time, who I read a pretty good race in the Met win. Running Son of a Gun, who's also a gun runner. So gun runner is going to be well represented in that race. Just looking at the Sword Dancer, we have Gafo and Channelmaker, Adamo, nice horses, Tribhuvan. I was hoping that they would run Warlike Goddess in here. Bill Mott hinted after the last race that now that the Flower Bowl is a grade 2, that he might run her in the Sword Dancer. I don't see her in the probables. Like I said, on Sunday, the Ballerina looks like a really good race with CC and Obligatory. The Forgo is going to have John's favorite horse, the Saratoga horse for the course, Baby Yoda. So I know it's going to be appointment viewing for John. Mind Control's in there. Jackie's Warrior obviously is appointment viewing. 3-2 Zone, who was pretty sharp in an allowance win earlier in the meet. Personal Ensign looks like we're going to have a short field, but we're going to get Latruska, Malathot, Clariere, Search Results. So I think it's going to be a power-packed field, even if it's a short field. So we'll be looking forward to that one. So what do you guys think? What out of what I just said, or maybe something off the board, what are you looking forward to most on Saturday?
Well, obviously, other than the Travers, will the Forgo doesn't figure to be a competitive race because Jackie's Warrior is just so good. Is he going to go out at 1-5 and win again? But when he was so dominant in the Vanderbilt, and that was the race that we're all saying, this is the most impressive thing I've seen since fill in the blank. Is he going to go out and do that again to run a performance where you're just you're just mesmerized by how great he was? So I'm always looking forward to that. I tell you, I'm looking forward to the Personal Ensign as well, because I want to see if Latruska can bounce back. Last time we saw her in the Ogden Phipps, she got beat 36 lengths. Now, was that just a complete fluke? Just like in the Breeders' Cup Distaff, she got beat a mile. It looks to me that if she faces any kind of pace pressure whatsoever, she's vulnerable. That she needs to get that loose on the lead trip. But I remember at this time last year, we were talking about her as a possible horse of the year contender. And, as good as Clariere is, if the real Latruska shows up, I think Latruska could beat her. But I have no idea what to expect in there. And, Jack Christopher, it would have been nice if he won the Haskell, and then he might be back in the Travers. And we'd be talking about this great showdown with Epicenter, Jack Christopher, a couple others. But they're doing the right thing. He obviously doesn't want to go 1.25 miles, so the Breeders' Cup Classic is out. And let's see what he can do in the Allen Jerkins.
To me, this weekend really revolves around those two grade 1s that we've been talking about, the Travers and the H. Allen Jerkins. When you have a horse like Jack Christopher cutting back in distance, Accretive looks like he's 2 for 2. He won first time out and then almost won the Amsterdam. Just losing barely to Gunite. And then you have Conager, which you mentioned, Gunite and Happy Jack, and these are all legitimate horses, and I'm curious to see how they can go the 7 furlongs. And I'm also curious to see just how fast they run in comparison to the older boys, because, this is definitely a race that they're all starting to get together and they're going to bottleneck in the Breeders' Cup Sprint. So I'm very curious to see just how the young guns, the 3-year-olds, run in the Jerkins time-wise against the older horses that will be running later on that day.
Yep, and you guys bring up a good point with Jackie's Warrior, too, because, this is – when he's chasing Horse of the Year, I don't know. I think Joel might want to let him run a little bit in the stretch this time, because this is kind of Joel's MO. And I think it's very smart in general. It's just don't exert your horse any more than they need to, especially when you're on a horse who's so much the best. I don't know. I think if you want Horse of the Year, you want him to put on a show in this race and go win off by 6, 8, 10 lengths, which is going to be hard because it's a legitimate grade 1 field. But I think this is the day for Jackie's Warrior to really be allowed to strut his stuff if they want that Horse of the Year title, which I'm sure they do. And Kirk Robinson, and shout out to Kirk and Judy Robinson, fans and friends of the show, and we'll be rooting for them, obviously. But yeah, I think this is the day to let Jackie's Warrior do his thing. But yeah, it's going to be a tremendous day of racing. My hope is that it won't be too chalky. It's interesting that you guys bring up about the personal ensign, because who's going to go with Latruska? Like, search results went with her in the Ogden Phipps, but then search results was third and was going the wrong direction. So it'll be interesting to see how that race is ridden, because I think you're right that if Latruska gets loose, she still is probably the same horse and is going to run away with the race, or not run away with the race, but is going to be tough to reel in. But I think that there's going to be somebody who's going to put some kind of pressure on her, seeing what happened in the Ogden Phipps and seeing what happened in the Breeders' Cup Distaff. So plenty of subplots, plenty of grade 1 races on Saturday. Good luck to all the connections. We want great, safe racing. Like we said, it's going to be beautiful weather, so everybody have a great time at Saratoga on Saturday, and we'll be back next week to wrap it all up.